Hello, my name is Aaron and welcome to another video. Today we are reviewing the Samyang 12mm f2.0 lens. So before we get started, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video if you're enjoying it. So the Samyang 12mm f2.0, also known as the Rokinon 12mm, usually in the US. People say that they're not the same brand, but there are no differences that I can see between the lenses when I've looked them up online. So this is the Samyang 12mm f2.0 lens. Kind of quite a compact size. This is an ultra-wide lens for APS-C cameras. I'm using the Sony E-mount version, which I'm using on the Sony a5100. This is an APS-C lens and it is a manual focus lens. As you can see here, there are no electronic components on the bottom for autofocus, and comes out the box with a petal-shaped lens hood, which you can see attached there. I'll take the lens cap off. Quite a simple little box that comes with, very small, just about enough space for the lens, a bit of packaging and a nice, quite good quality little lens bag there. Now, I did get this second hand, so I'm aware that the new version comes with a little instruction manual and your lens will be wrapped in plastic, but other than that, everything is here. So you can see the box here, f2.0 12mm ultra wide angle lens for mirrorless cameras. This is the Sony E-mount version, and here's the other colour variant here. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the Samyang 12mm f2.0. As you can see, it's a fairly compact lens and it comes packaged with a petal style lens hood, which when attached looks like that. So that increases, there's quite a considerable size to the lens hood. That comes off and then that's how it looks without it. Lens cap, there you can see the glass is dome shaped, see that? Which is quite aesthetically pleasing. Back lens cap, and as you can see there are no electronic connections, so there is no autofocus on this lens, and it's also worth bearing in mind that there is no Embody Stabilization for this lens. If you listen closely you can hear the aperture ring clicking, and you can see there the aperture blades opening and closing from the other side. So if we take a closer look there here, we can see the aperture ring here just underneath this red line here. It's kind of quite smooth, just below this red line here. So a substantial click here for each half stop, all the way up to 2. And then here is your focus ring, because of course this is the manual focus lens. And that is very smooth, but not too smooth, so as soon as you let go, that is staying in place, so I don't think you're going to knock that, or not easily. I think what I've found is that you're actually probably more likely to knock the aperture ring. I don't know if that, mine's just a bit looser, but it's just worth bearing in mind because they are very close together. There's only that red ring in the middle, but the red ring does look quite cool, I think, on it. This is obviously the black version. It is also available in silver. So the build quality is quite substantial. It's not too heavy, but nothing feels like it's rattling around or moving around in there. It is mostly plastic, but with a metal ring to connect to the body of the camera. Now, I do find that this lens connected to the Sony a5100 does move around just a little bit connected to the body, but nothing to worry about, but just be aware that it does move around a little bit. That might just be an issue with the Sony a5100 in particular. But as you can see, it's quite a compact wide angle lens, so not a bad one to chuck in your camera bag if you are out taking landscapes, astrophotography, or doing a bit of nighttime photography, something like that. So the 12mm focal length means that this is a very wide angle lens for an APS-C. I think that's the equivalent of an 18mm for a full frame. f2.0 means it's a bright aperture, which means it will perform well indoors and in low light. I'll swap to an example now of the Sony a5100 recording in the same recording situation as this, with this lens attached. So here's me recording in exactly the same setup with the Samyang 12mm f2.0. As you can see, the field of view is way wider than it was with the kit lens. I've not moved the tripod or camera at all. I'm recording at wide open aperture of f2.0. I've tried to focus the lens for about where I am now, but you will go out of focus if you move away from that focus range. So you'd probably only use this lens for stuff like vlogging if you knew you were going to be in exactly the same spot, but it just gives you a bit of an example of what this lens looks like in the same situation. As mentioned before, the Samyang 12mm f2.0 is a manual focus lens, which means you won't have any of the autofocus options when using it, and you need to use the focus ring, which is very smooth, to focus on your subject. Worth bearing in mind if your subject is moving that you're going to need to be adjusting this, but the manual focus options, especially on the Sony Alpha cameras, are very good. If you want to use this for landscapes, which I think is a good kind of camera, and you want to use filters with it, it has a 67mm filter thread on it, which is useful if you're using polarizing filters and stuff like that. And the price of the Samyang 12mm is around £280 and probably about $280 new as well. It's worth bearing in mind that you can pick up this lens much cheaper second-hand on eBay. I picked it up for about £150, which is much more manageable if you are on a budget. Here's a few examples of the type of photos that you can take with this lens. So as I said, this is wider than the kit lens, so you'll get a wider field of view, which means you'll fit more into your shot. This is good for landscapes and other types of shooting where you want to have a wilder field of view, which can be good for interior shots, maybe something like if you're taking photos for an estate agent's real estate type photography, it makes your room look very big. You wouldn't really use this lens for things like portraits or sports photography. As I said, it's got a fixed focal length of 12mm, so no zoom capabilities with this lens. This lens is about the widest and fastest aperture that you will get for APS-C cameras, especially at that second-hand price point, which means it can be a really good lens to add to your collection early doors. If it's the type of photography that you want that wide angle shot that you can't achieve with other lenses, the Samyang or the Rokinon 12mm is a really good option for this. As I mentioned earlier, there is no autofocus on this lens, so it's manual focus only. Also, this means there is no stabilization in lens, which means that your videos are going to be a little more shaky, so I would recommend either using a gimbal or a tripod if you're going to be moving around, otherwise your footage is going to be quite shaky. I'll put some examples of this in here so you can see that you can kind of smooth it out with smooth hand movements, but you are still going to get shake, so I would recommend using a gimbal if you want to use this for video. So the Samyang 12mm, if you're in the market for a wide angle lens, there's no better bang for your buck than you're going to get with this. It's sharp, it's fast, it's great in low light, it's about as wide as you are going to get for this camera system. That second-hand price especially means that it's definitely an option worth bearing in mind. So have you got the Samyang or the Rokinon 12mm or another wide angle lens that you have used? Let me know in the comments below your experience with these lenses. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. But that's it for me for now. Cheers.